The budget would have to be.
Yeah.
Not the precept necessarily, but certainly the budget needs to be agreed. But, as Bob said earlier, it's only bearing in mind it's a draft budget, and come December, there's no reason why it can't be tweaked and changed and, altered, because at the end of the day, Somerset want a preset figure from us early January. So we've probably got to make a decision.
Will be in by then.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, ideally by the end of the year we should have a budget and a preset agreed, which is one more meeting effectively. December.
Yeah, but I mean, just say the tenders came in at 250,000.
Mm-hmm.
That could have a huge difference on our plans for the coming year.
In terms of the dates of meetings and such, the December meeting will be before the close of tenders.
Yes.
We will have our provisional meeting, which will be after the close of
And
tenders.
about the 18th, I think.
Yeah. So that might be that we would have to look at that. That would be the last time that we could do it. Because certainly Somerset and Sedgmoor in the past always used to push us to get the information to them in early January, bearing in mind they've got to set their budget for February to get all the information back from all the councils, because they they in effect collect our money. That forms part of their budget, so they need to make sure that's in there before February. So,
I mean, what is always amazing to me was that Sedgmoor all said to me there were some smaller parish councils they having to chase in March for the years, which is ridiculous, really. When you consider when we set our budgets, to have to be chasing parish councils in March. So, over to you really, whether you feel that's a reasonable budget. I mean, it might well be that it needs tweaking again, but,
Andy.
Sorry, Chairman. So the 12,000, picking up on the comment just made, 12,400 is the anticipated, so that was an untest. That's the interest anticipated on what spend. So
that's us taking out 160,000.
160. So really what we're being asked is, providing that figure is around about 160 on the quote, I'll be happy with the rest of the budget, because that's the real big piece, isn't it? The rest of it seems relatively standard on the year. And it's a 2% increase year on year, which is fairly low. But it does depend, isn't it, Melina? It does depend on that 12,000, isn't it? On whether that goes up 12 to whatever.
yeah, it does. It does depend on other bits of spending you want to do in things, fire equipment and stuff like that as well. It's not just about the shop.
So generally, as things stand at the moment, would it be fair to say members are happy that we do this as a draft? We obviously come back and look at it again in December, and we're going to be looking at the precept bit as well. But at least this, as I say, gives us a baseline to work from, and then we can see where we go from there. So, all those in favour that we say it's okay as a draft?
Okay.
That's everybody. Thank you.
And then the other things are really integrated timetable. Well, okay, we talked about the timetable.
Yeah.
That's part and parcel of it, really. So that's takes care of that.
Okay. So that then takes us on to item 7, which is matters for consideration. And the first one we've got is the AMPR update.
Yeah, the AMPR update, just to tell you what's happened there, I sent a purchase order to Westcotec, which they have confirmed, and they expect the goods to be delivered sometime between now and Christmas. And I kind of like assuming you'd be happy to take the delivery of it.
Oh yeah.
If you're around, I've given them your telephone number, so I said, look, you'll have to give plenty of warning. But so they're going to deliver that in December.
Can I just ask what training is going to be given Stuart Nichols on this? Are they proposing to give him some training in the installation, or will it come suitably?
He has quite a good relationship with Ollie Sandway, who's the West guy, and I would imagine knowing Stuart, the first thing he'll do is get Ollie to come along and have a good look at it, I would have thought.
Okay.
But yeah, training you definitely need. be definitely training, because this will be the first AMPR, certainly in this county, operated by parish council. So he's going to need some training on it, definitely.
Okay.
So there's something, you're quite right, Colin, we need to just make sure of that.
Yeah.
I think also we need to make sure that we put some publicity out as well for the village so they know what's coming, what it actually does and what it doesn't do. I think there will be some who will be concerned about issues relating to ANPR, and I think we need to make sure people understand that this is it's not logging every vehicle movement that goes past it. It is purely logging those that are over a set speed limit. And also it's not a cash cow, because it's not going to issue fines. It is issuing the same thing that the speed watch people do. You'll get a letter from the police basically saying you've been clocked.
On the admin side, we're now fully compliant. It's on our website, which is what we're required to do. So if anybody questions it, we are fully compliant as far as the police are concerned and the surveillance part of the central government is concerned.
And as was mentioned earlier, we've had the posts, so you may have noticed various extensions of posts and new posts that have popped up in and around the village. So those can all be used for the SIDS and for the AMPR. So once we get the piece of kit, we're up and running. And I noticed that Stuart is already using some of the new
Posts,
locations, so they are up and functional.
Moving forward.
Okay. Next one is community shop bill items not covered in the working group. So Ash dieback quotes. So just to update on that, we've had 3 quotes in at the moment. We're still having some discussions with National Grid because basically the 3 quotes we've had range from 1,500, 1,600 and 2,000. So I was asked at the last meeting to go and talk to the neighbours about a contribution, and they have said they are prepared to make a contribution. They would pay up to £500 towards it, so that will obviously help. We need obviously to talk to National Grid because for the works to happen, the power would have to be turned off, so it has to be done in conjunction with them. And we are just trying to see if, as they have their own tree people, whether we could actually contract them to do the work, because if they work with their own people, you think it would make it easier for them. At the moment, Owen's chasing them. They haven't come back with a definite answer one way or the other. So we'll keep moving on that and obviously move it forward so that we can get that sorted, and we'll then come back and confirm with you exactly what's happening, because if they do step in, there may be a different quote that comes in from them, so we'll let you know. Owen already mentioned the apple tree, so that's been dealt with. Tendering process.
Yeah, the tendering packs, we've sent out currently I think 6 tendering packs to interested parties, some of which were part of the previous tendering process that we did earlier in the year. And so now we wait until the 11th of December, which is the cut-off date for tendering, to see how many of them decide to tender. They probably won't all tender, even though they've asked for the packs. I very much doubt that we'll probably get more than 2 or 3. But interestingly, two of them came from the next door piece I put on, which is interesting. So that does seem to work.
Okay.
That's where we are so far.
Melina had raised the way-leave agreement and insurance matters, and I think you had a response from our insurers.
Yeah, I had quite a long conversation with a guy called Danny at our insurance, Gallagher's, and he wasn't quite sure. He'd never been asked a question before, so he went and found out for us. And he said, no, actually, the situation is that because you're dealing with National Grid, they are a national statutory authority, and as a consequence, they've probably got a million times more insurance than you've got as a council. He said, so they will have everything in place. They said, and we wouldn't want to get involved in it, frankly, because if there were any issues, it would be down to them. If there were issues that they had created because of the work they're doing, then they would cover it. It wouldn't fall back on us at all. So he said, we wouldn't even want to know about it, frankly. So that is the straight answer.
Okay. Next item was QS report, and this was John. You wanted to raise this.
So yeah, so probably as you're aware, I've raised this as a question on the email and to follow up on that email. The 9th and 13th asked for that QS document to be shared to everybody. We still today don't have that document. I understand it's a confidential document. I'm not quite sure what that means. Certain people have seen it, so it's really just an update on what is the confidentiality, when do we get to see it, and what is the position. My understanding is this report is not just for councillors here, but also to assist builders in the tendering process, which is now whistling along. So there's a number of questions in there, but first of all, who has seen the document and when will it be shared to all councillors?
First of all, the reason why the document was regarded as confidential is because that was what I was asked to do by the quantity surveyor involved. He'd operated as effectively a community service to the council by providing what was only a guide, not a definitive quantity surveying report. It came as a result, I think, Colin, you knew the chap involved, and he made that very generous offer to provide us with a guide. Now, the reason why I wasn't able to share it is because he had sent me an email requesting that we don't share it
With anyone at all?
with anybody apart from the buildings working group, which is Colin, Malcolm and Bob. They were the only ones, as far as he was concerned, that were he was happy to receive it, simply because he didn't want it going around the village. He didn't want it getting into the wrong hands. He certainly didn't want to go to any builders or contractors. It was simply a guide for us as a council, so that when we got the tendering documents in, we had something to compare it with. That was the whole purpose of it. Now, I will read you what he said. Further to our telephone conversation, can I please stress that the budget cost plan I have completed was done as a favour to Colin and to give an indication of likely costs, rather than as a document to be shared with a wider audience. I would like to request that this document is treated confidentially and only circulated between yourself, Colin and other members of the build team. There is a risk, should the information came as my estimate be shared with a wider group, that it could be passed to a potential contractor, pricing for the contract, giving them an unfair advantage and impacting on the parish council getting the best value when going out to tender. I'd also mention the document in its current form would need to be well caveated, and I would suggest issuing the tender as drawing in the specification so that the contractor bears their own responsibilities for accurate pricing. In other words, what he's really saying is that it is only a guide,
It's just a guesstimate.
and should a tenderer use that information and then find it's inaccurate, the guy who's given us the freebies, if you want a better word, and a community benefit, would not feel able to take liability for it, because he's done it not as a cost professional, but as a favour to the council. So that's the reason why it's confidential, and that's the reason. Now, I address your point, John, and I know you made the point several times about confidentiality. That is the reason why I couldn't share it.
John.
So can I ask, Chair, where we've agreed to that as a council to continue on those terms? Where have we agreed as a council that we are in acceptance of those terms?
I don't understand that question.
No,
What?
So we have agreed, it's been agreed to agree with the QS report, but where have we as a council agreed to that request as a council? Who has made that decision?
the council.
The council hasn't made the decision.
The council took the decision to accept the offer that was given to us by someone who was in the village who would do a QS report for us.
Agreed.
He has supplied that, and
Yes.
he has said he would like it kept confidential. I don't see how, bearing in mind that we have received that from him with that request, I don't see we have any ability to us make a decision to go against that, because he's offered it only on that basis. Melina and then Andy.
But he essentially hasn't provided us with a QS report. He's given us a bit of a guesstimate, because he is saying he certainly wouldn't want any builders to see that. Now, I thought the reason that we were even considering having a QS report done was that on the previous tender process, a couple of the builders had commented that they didn't want to pay for a QS report on a project where they may not even get the job. And I thought that was the reason we were getting a QS report done. But now it turns out we're not having a QS report done. Colin's mate's given him a ballpark figure of what it might cost.
And the gentleman who has made the offer to us to provide that information is basically done on that basis of it being free. It was there for information now that we can use as the council to assess applications as they come in. So if we ended up with a particularly keen price, but it's based on a quantity which is totally wrong, we would be in a difficulty. We're also advised that obviously if we were to make this available to builders, and as you heard, if they used these quantities and then it turned out they weren't 100% right, then we've got a problem because we've in effect given them that as a quantity.
Well, that was always an issue with us providing a QS report, and
So we were approached with an offer to be given a QS report. We did not send out and say we have not paid for a QS report. We were given an offer that this is information that the council otherwise wouldn't have had when we come to assess these tenders. I'll go to Andy and then John.
Sorry, I'm a bit behind on all of this, but
Yeah.
is the document an official QS report? Then what's the discussion? If it's a guide and guide only for the council, what's the conversation?
Yeah.
I don't understand.
John and then Melina.
So Jay, I'm sorry to say this, you are incorrect. It's not for the council, it's for part of the council to consider. So in your statement you're saying it's for the council to consider this piece of information. This council cannot consider information because we're not party to it. Only certain members of this council are party to that
And
information.
that is the building working group.
Correct, and you are referring to the council.
Yeah, and the building working group represent the council on those building issues. We will take that information and feed it back to give it further updates to all members.
So as a councillor, I will never see that document.
That is what we have been
That
asked
is what
not
has
to.
been agreed to by both parties, correct?
That is the basis on which the information has been supplied to us. Melina.
so you just said about bringing things back and for us to make a decision, but how can we make a decision when we don't have the information?
So members will have, when we get the tenders in, those tenders will be shared.
Yeah.
And we can then say whether those tenders are broadly in line with the information that we've been supplied. If we felt that they were not in line with what we've been supplied, we will give you that guidance, but we can't share the document because that's the basis on which it's been issued to us.
I was just going to say that was the point of us having the buildings working group in the first place, so that a few people could meet, go through all these points, then come back to the council and then we'll discuss the stuff. That is the point of us having the buildings working group, which we've got in place, which we elected as council.
Melina.
The purpose of the building working group wasn't actually that at all. It was because Bob couldn't be involved in the shop group, which was originally what was dealing with all of the shop matters. The building working group was created as an afterthought.
The building working group was created to be able to deal with the planning, with the actual project, rather than the shop working group, which deals with the liaison between us and the shop and the workings of how it's been operating.
Well, we all voted for it as a council a long time ago. As far as I'm concerned, that's what we do. And then the group comes back and reports to the council. That's it. And then we all are a party to what's been decided.
The alternative is you take the document, you tear it up and you have no guideline.
Yeah.
And you just take it right on the hop, which seems to me a little bit strange if somebody's offered to help.
Melina and
agreed.
John.
I mean, I find it a little bit strange that somebody has offered to do a favour for a councillor. Is there going to be some payback at some
No,
point?
let's just get that straight, Melina. It is not being done as a favour for a councillor. A person who lives in this village has offered to do something to hopefully benefit the village in terms of a major project which the parish council is involved with. And I think it would be unreasonable for you to imply that somehow that member of the public is doing something wrong by doing what is actually a very laudable act in trying to help us make sure we get best value for money for this village.
Sorry, just to clarify, I wasn't trying to imply that the member of the village was doing anything wrong.
Well, that's certainly the
I'm
implication.
sorry,
All
but
the councillor.
Chairman, that sounded wrong then, and I think an apology should be towards Colin, because that's accusing him of something.
So, yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm sure Melina didn't mean to infer that any councillor is doing anything that is for their own benefit.
Obviously.
I think
Okay,
sorry, Mr Chairman, I think
Colin and John.
the important thing of the, if you like, the information that we've been given is when we get the prices in, as you know, you could have a whole myriad of prices. You could have a really expensive price, you could have a really cheap price. And we, as a council, need to look at those prices and consider them. We also need to look behind the scenes at their credibility to be able to finance the project and see it through. There are all sorts of things we're going to have to decide. We're just putting a piece in the jigsaw that will enable you to make a constructive decision at the end of the day. That's all we're doing. There's nothing underhand at all. I think we're fortunate to have this information.
John and Melina.
I have absolutely no issue, and I take my hat off to anybody in this village that gives time and energy to nothing. I have a fundamental issue with being open and transparent with all of the people around this table. We are suddenly having secret documents that certain people can't see, and then agreeing to that. And that, for me, raises issues. Irrespective of what any councillor thinks here, for me, I'd like to see all of the information to help what is a critical part of this project, which is a huge amount of money for 25, 30 years plus for this village. And it has been agreed between parties that a document is now semi-confidential. But am I not trusted as a councillor? Or am I trusted as a councillor?
As I said earlier,
Am I equal, sorry, Chair, am I an equal councillor around the table, or am I not an equal councillor? Irrespective of the working groups, this document should not be to be between certain parties and should be shared so everyone can benefit from the document and make their decision whenever that decision is.
as has been said, the document has been made available to us on the basis that it has, with it being confidential. No decision is made on this document itself. The decision will be made by the whole council in terms of the tenders when they come in, and that's what will decide the money that we spend on this project, not this particular document. This enables the building working group to hopefully make a reasoned assessment of the information that will come back from the tenders, which will then be shared with all members when the tenders are decided on. So I don't think that any members are compromised in terms of what they can do in terms of the decision on this project, because the decision will be made on the tenders that return from the people who actually put those tenders in. I'll come to John and then Melina.
Sorry, my apologies, I thought you said minutes. So just to add into that, a project, in my opinion, of this size, a competent builder will be doing their own QS, and I have made this point that a competent builder will be doing their QS. We understand from the previous tender that was, as Councillor Kingscott said earlier, that didn't happen because no builder wished to put that in. So I'd add into that this really is a critical part of this project, and the builders would be looking to price that themselves.
But you just said that the competent builders will do their own QS.
But they didn't last time.
Well, because we didn't have any tenders put in at all.
Right, but one of the feedbacks to this group was that was a major issue. So anyway, I get back to that.
I mean, ultimately, that will be for the builders to make up their own mind. If they don't wish to do a QS, they don't wish to do a tender, they won't put a tender in.
And that was exactly what I was going to say, that the tenders failed didn't fail, the tender process failed because builders didn't want to go to the expense of getting a QS report done, to not get the job,
I don't
and
think,
we're in that same situation
I
again.
don't think that was the basis on which the whole thing didn't happen. A lot of the concern last time around was about the fact that we had a stonking great electric cable underneath the toilet. We didn't know from National Grid how they would get rid of that or deal with it, and they had no timescale for dealing with it. So if you're putting in a tender of some project which is going to start in 3 months, or might have to wait a year, we were being the worst case scenario, your tender was going to be meaningless because you couldn't get on site until National Grid. We now are back out to tender because we've got a date for National Grid to do their stuff. It will be done by the end of January. So any builder coming in now knows that we are tendering for they can get on site from February onwards, and they can fit that into their timescale.
And I come back to Jane, John, on this question of confidentiality, because I think one of the suggestions that you were sort of making in your emails was that I was taking decisions that were not decisions of the council. On this particular instance, I was actually asked to keep this document confidential, and it would have been very remiss of me not to have done so. And the only thing I could have done was say, look, we're not going to accept the report because I can't keep it confidential. Now, I think that would have been the wrong thing to have done, personally, but, you know.
And ultimately, as Andy made the comment earlier, if we are to say we want to share the document with members, then we can't because it's confidential, in which case we just get rid of the document and we don't have the benefit of that information. John?
Go back to my point. I asked who had made the decision. So the working group has made the decision, or the chair has made the decision, or the clerk's made the decision. This council has not made that decision to accept those terms. And that is the fundamental of my point.
And Tracy and then Andy.
I don't understand what terms. I don't understand, John, what you're saying.
The confidentiality terms between certain people. An agreement's made between two parties. The guy providing the report has said, I'll provide the report with these conditions,
And he wants to restrict that.
which is his prerogative.
Absolutely.
And our side, as a council, is to either agree or not agree to accept those terms.
So if we don't agree to his terms...
But that decision has already been accepted.
If we don't agree, we don't have document to work with.
But we didn't vote to agree to those terms.
Hold on, members. I've got Andy and I've got Colin.
No, that's all right.
When I was previous member, I understood that when we elected a working group, we gave them the council's authority to do what was necessary to report back on the major issues. Is that not still the working practice of a council?
Yes, it is, that's
And
what I
I
understood.
and I see no issue in what's going on.
Colin.
It seems to me then that we, as a council, we're being asked to vote on whether we accept that the report of the private QS be kept confidential to the working group or open to the remainder of the council. That's what John effectively is saying.
I think that the motion will in effect be either we accept and it remains confidential to the working group and we make use of the document, or we get rid of the document and we say thank you but we don't want your report. We can't make it open because the guy has said he wants it to remain confidential. We don't have the authority to overrule him. So either we say we accept that and if that would help address John's concern as to who's making this decision, it will be the council. I'll happily put forward that as a motion, that we have a document that's been made available to us on a confidential basis. I will propose that we accept that it should remain confidential for the use of the buildings group to help us facilitate the processing of the tenders when they come in. And that we accept the generous offer that's been made by the gentleman in the village to do this work on our behalf. Melina?
Well, I think the issue is that working groups don't make decisions, they make recommendations and the council votes on decisions. Now, at no point was it put to the council that we can get this QS report done, but it's going to have a very limited audience. Are you happy to vote for us to get that. That didn't happen. We never voted to get a confidential QS report done. I think that's the issue. And saying, oh, well, we just tear it up, but you can't unsee what you've seen. So the people in that working group will have still seen the QS report, and the rest of us won't have.
Okay, so that
was the issue.
So we have a recommendation that has now been put by myself that we do accept the confidential nature of this and make use of the document to help us in our discussions. Is there?
I'll second that.
Thank you. All those in favour of that, please show. And those against, please show. And abstentions? Okay. Thank you. So, next item on the agenda is the village contract, which was discussed at the last meeting, and I think you went back to Jason to get an update in terms of the additional work that we were looking at, and there were odd items that we were also asking to be removed.
The key elements of the change were that Jason would do a more increased volume of cutting on the green to make the green look nicer over the particular season, summer season. And that should also extend to the surrounding part of the front of the green as well. And there were a couple of areas that we felt that we could take away from the contract. Very small areas of verges, which would obviously reduce Jason's contract a bit on that side of things. The net total is about £400 a year more to have the increased cutting regime on the green, and have a couple of areas that reduced from the contract. So that should mean that the green would look nicer for longer. And I think, as Amanda quite rightly pointed out, we should insist upon the grass cutting being at a very sensible low level. In other words, it shouldn't be left, as it often has been, too high. So not only would we cut more frequently, but we'd also be cut tighter as well. And that's the basis of the change, really.
So in effect, the total contract goes from being about 7,366, I think it was, to about 7,800. Colin?
Just one comment that when we've looked at the green, there was a lot of, if you like, dead cut grass that was left on the green to rot away, which wasn't very good for the kids if they wanted to play football or whatever. They'd be kicking through rotting grass cuttings. Is he able to mow it and remove the grass? I know it would be an awful lot, but
to be honest, that wasn't something we asked him for. The proposal we put was that he was cutting it more frequently and cutting it shorter.
I was going to say, I think if you cut it significantly shorter, hopefully it will, yeah. Because we'd had a few people making comments that their children were getting wet feet and things, and I know the growth this year has been terrific. If you'd cut it that many more times and we asked them to cut it shorter, hopefully that would might address that issue.
And again, just to be clear, in terms of the increase, we're looking at 30 cuts for the green as opposed to 20 at the moment, so we're upping it by 50%. And we're looking at the front area, which is around the toilet block, flagpole, all that sort of area, currently is being cut 8 times. That will go up to 30 as well. So that will be, again, significantly more regularly, and therefore it shouldn't end up with so much of the grass left on top.
Are we asking him to cut more regularly during the growing season?
Yes.
Right.
And I think the thing about the whole thing, of course, if there is a dependency on what happens to that green area in front of the toilet block, for example, because that will be dug up if everything goes according to the wishes of the council. So, in a way, that next year might be a difficult year to perhaps assess how effective that is. And he's aware of that, and he has said to me that he will be flexible with the council. If he ends up not having to do that work for a period of 6 months or whatever, then he will adjust his contract price accordingly. And you know, he's a fair-minded sort of chap. I'm sure he will along with that.
So are members happy that we go for the increase in terms of what we're...
How much was it, the increase again?
It's about 400 and something, 460 quid. I think it is.
I propose that we accept the increase.
Yeah.
All those in favour of that, please show.
Okay.
That's unanimous. Okay, Orchard Grove, request for support towards the tree management. Just an update on that. You remember at the last meeting we were approached by residents of Orchard Grove who've got an issue with trees overtopping the hedge that runs up Orchard Grove. I mentioned at the last meeting, it's I believe on highway land. I have been in touch with Highways. They have said they would not be keen to do it themselves, but they would be very happy if the management company wished to trim their trees over the top. Because it's coming across onto their land, they've got absolutely every right to take those off. He also has given me his contact details, which I've passed on to Owen, and Owen's passing back to the management company, so that they can make direct contact with the tree guy at county and negotiate what they want. Because again, what he did say was if they wanted to do a little bit extra work and take it back to the trunk, they would be happy as long as he has inspected it and made sure that it is not damaging the tree or the trees that are on there. So it's not a matter for the parish council. It is now a discussion between the management company who run Orchard Grove and Highways, whose trees they are. Okay. Play equipment, updates and grant applications. State play for the, so this was the, we were looking at grants for the aerial runway. Unfortunately, we have heard back from Sport England that they are unable to issue us with a grant, which was going to be 5,000 towards the cost, which was around about between 15 and 16,000. To be frank, I think it would be very difficult for us to continue until we get that grant money. So what I would like to ask is if the council is willing for me to continue to search for other grants, and if we can make up that gap so that with other grant money we fill the hole, then I'll come back to the council again, at which point we will probably have to go back to the company just to see if the prices have changed in the meantime. But we can look at further information on that, and I'll report back as soon as we've got those. Sport England were not dismissive of our application. They simply said they got so many other applications in that were that much better than ours in terms of meeting their criteria. They have not put us off for reapplying again as well.
So they were looking at something like 900 applications from parish councils around the country, of which they were expecting to make about 200 successful grants. So 200 out of 900? Yeah.
Amanda?
Did we approach EDF at any point?
Not yet. I will add those to the list. We
Because
are
they've
also...
been quite proactive in play areas, and I think they helped one. It was either Burnham or Highbridge or something like that.
Green.
So it's quite
as well.
green.
Green as well.
Yes, that's quite close to us. And they might.
Done the whole lot all the way along. They've done the whole
Yeah.
lot all the way along.
I mean, the benefit that Green and Barrow have is that obviously they've got the campus down there with all the buses going up and down, which
Yeah.
is you've got to show an impact.
Oh, we got traffic down from the quarry.
So we can try. So we'll certainly try EDF. We are also in touch. I was in touch again with I think they're called Valencia now, the people who used to be Viridor, and they've again said, do come back to us. We put in an application to them previously. They've asked us to resubmit. So we'll give that another push as well. As soon as we've got any news, we'll feedback. Flower boxes.
Yeah.
We were looking for volunteers in terms of the maintaining the flower boxes on the village entrances. So we've got Amanda, who is doing the one up at the end of the A38. Aidan, are you still covering the one that's down at the Brent Road?
Yeah.
Excellent. We did put something in the Brent Knoll News asking for volunteers coming forward for Burton Row. I'm not aware that we've had any back. although I did have one person who's contacted me to say they would be prepared to sort of do some planting there, but it would be stuff that would have to look after itself. Maybe.
Let me go and ask the neighbours if I can park in their drive while I can do it, because there's no way I'm parking my car on the road. So if I can get the neighbours to let me park my car in their drive, I don't mind going and do it as well, doing that one and this one.
Okay.
Because that one needs to be building, so
I had a look at it, I had a look at the road one tonight and it's a real mess.
Yeah, I can do it, but
Yeah.
let me have a word with them, because I will not park my car, you know, like that. And I need a couple of cones, because that's right on that bend.
I was one in the park.
And a jacket as well, a yellow jacket.
Are members happy that we take AD
No.
up on that for the moment?
I've got one, but it's my RNLI, I'm not using that, I can.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Are members happy that AD has a go at that and
Yeah.
feedback and let us know what happens with the neighbours? Thank you. The Damage Jubilee plaque, we have been in touch with stonemasons. They haven't come back to us yet again, have they? So I will give them another chase.
It's really unsightly
Yeah.
because a piece of it has fallen out of it now, so it's
Can I
sad.
just say something about that, please? I had a really good look at it the other day. The top section is okay. The bottom section is okay. Like Colin said, the middle section is the bit that's gone. But if you look around the actual bottom of the plinth, I think it was the Queen's birthday one, is a piece of stone like that, which is actually concreted on. Well, if we got the whole of the damaged piece taken off, had the top piece cut and the bottom piece cut, and cemented it on, had the middle section re-engraved as a separate piece and cemented them, or had them cemented on, that would like override the problem of where we thought the expansion of the stone, or maybe that it cracked, or a vandal, because the other one, the original one, I'm sure it's the Queen's birthday, I took some pictures of them, but it's cemented down. And if we had them put like that, that would get round the problem that we'd spend all this money and have it done again. And it would only mean the middle section that we would have to replace that's gone, because we could probably use.
I think it might not have cost the budget amount, wouldn't
Well, it's just an idea. It might,
Well,
but it's just an
I'm
idea.
happy to have that conversation with
Yeah.
the stonemasons again. See.
Yeah.
It needs taking off though.
It needs taking off, and also I had a good look at it, and there's a
Well, we will
plastic
chase-
horseshoe down there.
Okay.
And
Well,
I'm wondering if somebody put it down there and tried to get it out, and that's why it's broken, because there is a horseshoe stuffed down the bottom
right.
section.
Okay. I'll chase up the stonemasons and ask them to get it taken down
Yeah.
anyway, and then we'll
Just keep it.
yes.
Yeah, because maybe if they, like I said,
Because
they
it's
could,
security bonded
cut
on there, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
not,
yeah.
yeah,
it's
no,
not easy
you
to take
can't
off.
put it
So,
on.
okay, I will chase that up and feedback. Next item was the consideration of the purchase of a strimmer, which I think, David, you were
I'm
going to...
waiting for some quotes, so it'll have to go for next month.
Okay.
I'm afraid.
Waiting.
Access for Hill Lane car park, we're waiting on quotes. We've had one come in, but there's also been some further discussion with one of the landlords in the area who was not keen, let's put it no stronger than that, on having a height restriction with a metal barrier, feeling that it would look rather like a municipal car park rather than the top of the knoll. They did make an offer that they would be prepared to potentially unlock and lock the gates morning and evening if we had gates put on there. However, to further confuse matters, they've asked that if anyone's been up there recently, you'll notice that the fence line with the neighbouring property has been taken back away. Apparently that was done deliberately because there is a problem with getting lorries into their drive otherwise, so they would not want to see that fence reinstated. But they would be very happy if we ended up with two gates that would in effect go back in both directions. So if you're happy that we get some quotes for that, I will report back to the next meeting, that it would mean that it would address both the misuse of the car park that's been reported by one or two of the other neighbours, and it would mean that we would have hopefully someone who would be prepared to open it and shut it. I think though I would want to ask that we've got that in writing from them, that they guarantee that that's what they're doing, because we wouldn't want it and not being done at proper times. Aidy,
Can we get that sign out my garage now then?
the sign can go up anyway because it needs to go near where the. Yeah, can you drop the sign down to me?
Well, yeah, but I can't get the poles for it, because I've got my van at the moment,
Yeah.
because the poles are not, 9 foot taller,
Right.
scaffold poles.
Yeah, it's a whole
So I can't
fine.
pick them up, yeah?
Yeah, don't go down that road at the moment. We're going to
Yeah.
look at, as I say, gating it rather than height restricting it.
Yeah.
So it'll stop all people
Yeah,
going.
but you need
in.
the scaffold poles for the post, for the sign though.
We will
That's
need
the
a
key- that's
we'll
the
need a
key.
pole for the sign. Yes.
2. It won't
Okay.
work on one, because you can just twist it round. You've got to have 2 poles.
Okay.
You've got to have 2 poles, otherwise you go like that with it.
Right.
So it's pointless. 2 poles, and it's sign.
Okay. Well, we'll yeah, we'll come back on that then. Okay.
Yes.
Councillor Knott, first aid training.
I spoke to our local paramedic and he knows someone who will do CPR training along with him. He's happy to, it's this chap that he used to work with, business, which are both quite local, but they wanted a sort of idea of what we wanted from them. So when we let them know,
Could they get in touch with the clerk also
Yeah,
about their availability?
yeah.
Because we'll need to book up the hall
Yeah,
at some
yes.
point too. So
numbers and exactly
Yeah.
what you want, but
Okay.
perfectly possible and local. So.
excellent. So are members happy that we get them to get in touch with Owen and we'll get some prospective dates out for members to then get some publicity so we get people along to it?
Yeah.
Okay. Matters of report. Let's start with Aidy. I'll go that way this time.
What's it? You stung me now, hold on.
That's all right.
Lots of
So
words, Aidy.
anything for next time or anything?
Yeah, there is, defibrillator.
Defib.
Right.
Yeah, could we purchase another one and put it down the bottom end, like the red cow, that end? Because if someone has, have a heart attack down there, like me the other week, but down that end, by the time you run up here or drive up here, get it, go all the way back down, they're dead. You know, it's not worth putting on a machine. That's what you happen within 2 minutes, you know.
Okay, so we'll put that on the agenda for
Yeah,
the next meeting.
Yeah.
No, sorry.
Stung me.
Yeah, David and I went on this training, chapter 8 training last week, and we, in relation to that, we were wondering if we could purchase some signs
Okay,
for...
so obviously we can't decide it tonight.
No,
but we'll put it on
for
the
next
agenda for the
week.
next.
Yeah, that's what, purchase of signs related
So this
to,
is for
What do they
to work
highway.
on the highway, like a blue sign with an arrow on it, and
Okay.
things like that.
Have we not got any of those in
No.
the...
Everything that John Hartley got was illegal.
Oh, right, okay.
Okay. Right.
They
John.
say anymore.
Well, at that point on to monitor developments down at the BWAT garage and car base. Just to add into that, without wishing to share rumours and gossip in the village, there is rumours and gossip which we can't comment on, but they are around that either a housing development and or a drive-through retail premises have been proposed. Car base have moved very swiftly from the premises. Our chair may or may not be able to add any information. And to be fair, any councillor may be able to add information, but can we put a point just to monitor those developments? I think they are critical to where we are as a council. And things are obviously happening of some description at that site.
Okay. Melina?
Ambulance donation, I believe you now have a letter, Owen.
We do. And in fact, the grant comes up for discussion usually December or January, so we can put it on the agenda for that. And probably December is the best time, really.
They did ask if I wanted somebody to come and talk, and I filled in the form. There was a possibility they might have been here tonight, because they've been quite busy the last few days. So maybe next month they will come and visit. What great work they do.
We have given them grants before, actually. They're not, they're familiar one with us, actually. So, yeah.
Okay. Tracy?
No, nothing.
David?
I don't know if it needs an agenda, but our website on the homepage is hopelessly out of date. Everything on the homepage is June and July. They're all about roadworks. So
Okay.
I don't know if that needs an agenda or
The trouble is, we made a decision, of course, to use our we didn't make a decision, somewhere to put the road work. The trouble is, what goes in its place? Do we revert back to what was there originally, which was just history of Brent Knoll, or do we want to put something else on there?
You've got that as well.
Yeah, you'll squeeze that in. I mean, that homepage is not a good homepage anyway.
No. But I just noticed it and I thought, well, that's a bit.
I think that would be serious looking at actually.
Okay.
Um,
But in the
yes,
meantime,
okay,
well, I was going
Yeah.
to take down the
Yeah.
okay.
map. Colin?
Yes, if we knock down the toilet block, there's a load of stuff in the back room, the old pump stuff, all that stuff, which will need to be either got rid of, sold, or relocated. And that will, we ought to get that done before the end of January. So it needs, we need to get a plan.
We had a tidy up in there, David and I have had a tidy up in there and got rid of a load of the rubbish.
I mean, it may well be that we decide to sell the pump, for instance, because we don't need it.
Can we, on that basis, can we put on the next agenda a discussion about the flood action group?
Flood action group.
Because we need to decide whether there is one, whether we need one or not. And hopefully we can get a testing of the pump at some point to see whether it still
Busy
is
agenda.
operational.
Busy agenda.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
And mince pies, of course.
Yes.
Indeed.
Oh, anything from
Nothing me, no.
Okay, nothing from me. Thank you very much. We'll close the meeting.
Can I just say something before we go?
Yes.
It's the Christmas tree thing.
Ah, yes.
We've been asked by the church if we're having a Christmas tree festival in the church, and if the parish council would exhibit a tree, and they've suggested that we have these wooden bauble cut-out bauble things with a picture of each councillor on that. Would everybody be happy on a picture to be displayed on the tree?
Yes.
Next to the dartboard.
Yeah.
Amanda, I do have a request actually. You know when the tree goes up at the front,
Yeah.
can we not put it exactly where it goes because it completely blocks off the path?
It goes there because that's the only hole for it to go in during the
But then there's
That
literally,
is,
it's a,
we've looked at that before.
if it's muddy, anyone in a wheelchair won't be able to get down the side of the village hall.
But just on the, to start with the one that Amanda's mentioned, this church, what's it, festival
Yeah,
of trees.
festival, yeah.
So they basically asked every organisation within the village to put a tree in, and it's not our tree out the front, it will be this is a
To
small
go in
tree
the church,
out for the
yeah,
church.
to go in the
I
church.
think that's a
So-
nice idea.
It's, and she said she would supply us with little wall, cut-out wall things. She said it'd be quite nice for a picture of each council. We should just lift off the website, but is everybody happy?
Decorate our own
I
board.
wonder who'll go on the photo on the top.
What, drawing?
If anyone wants to do their own baubles, that's absolutely
The
fine.
least artistic person in the world.
It's just quite
Take
nice
mine off the
if
website.
if we do it like as a parish council, just to say that we're, you know. But if
Yeah.
anyone doesn't
Just
want
like
their
you've got
picture
the
on there,
So
Thank you.
Yeah, if anyone doesn't want their own picture on it, maybe they could decorate their own bauble with
Yeah.
something else.
yeah. So is everybody happy with that?
maybe.
Yeah.
Melinda brought up that Christmas tree out here. Why don't we wait until they knock this one down, and then we might be able to put it there where that one is.
Yeah,
won't we? Put an hole in there, so it's moved on to the green one, isn't it? So it's away.
Actually,
we
that's not the
said
worst
that.
idea,
We
boring.
said
No,
Yeah,
that's
bore a
the
hole
tree,
in.
Yeah,
Yes.
actually, yeah, put it
Okay,
there.
we'll look at
Yeah.
It's just done.
Put it where
But
they
can
put
we
it
come
where
back to
they
Amanda's? Just hold on, guys. So the one we need, we can't. I mean, it's not a decision as such. But are we happy that Amanda puts a tree in representing the parish council, and if people want to decorate a bauble,
Yeah, if anyone
Talk
would
to
like
Amanda.
to do a bauble to put on there and say, I did this, or whatever.
Yeah, okay.
all right?
Yeah.
Everyone happy with
We'll do
that?
that.
Okay.
Colin's laughing like it's a joke. I'm serious.
No.
How big is the
If
tree?
you're not on the bauble, you'll be
How
on
big
the
are the
top.
baubles?
Yeah,
That's,
yeah.
They're
that's
about this big.
Who's the
the
fairy?
flat baubles.
That's you. Yeah, flat, like a flat cut. It's like a,
Yeah.
it's like
So
a
the
piece
trees-
of wood.
Oh,
Yeah.
have you got them? Have you got the pieces of wood?
Not yet.
But you will have.
Yes.
Okay, so if you give us all one then.
Yeah,
Then
we
Okay.
do our own
decorate
thing.
You can do
or-
it. Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Okay.
It's on the 9th of December.
Oh, better do it
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah.
So if you give us a thing, we'll.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll give everybody, yeah, because we've got
Thank you
another
for
meeting for
doing that,
Yeah,
Amanda.
no,
You're
no, it's good.
coordinate.
Oh, we'll do
Thank
it in
you.
the meeting, Colin, we can bring our paints and our glitter.
Oh,
Yes,
God,
you just
so-
Do it with a mince pie. Literally Christmas meeting.
So, branching out.